Ramo, DMV Wealth Builders, let's get it. Yeah, talking about finances, real estate, make a check, reinvest back into the block. Talking brick by brick, get your budget right, build your credit up so you never stop. Yeah, you gotta keep going. I know times get hard and you gotta be smart, but we all tryna win, so we gotta tap in if we tryna go far. Yeah, that's how you build wealth. Yeah, that's how you build wealth in the DMV. Yeah, that's how you build wealth. Yeah, that's how you build wealth in the DMV. Yeah, that's how you build wealth. Yeah, that's how you build wealth in the DMV.
All right, so Ife, man, thank you for joining us today in this interview. Really appreciate you. But so for our audience, can you go ahead and just give a brief description about yourself, like where you from, what you do, stuff like that, you know?
Sure. My name is Ife Tafari. Ife means love. It's a Nigerian name, named after the southwestern country in Nigeria, actually. I was born and raised in D.C., Northeast D.C. I graduated from Anacostia High School.
Okay.
Go Indians. I'm currently an HR director at a academic institution, postgraduate college, university that many of you might know. So that's what most of my day job is being in HR and just dealing with people problems.
Okay, people problems. All right, give us. I know you're probably gonna go into too much of a detail because you know it's probably personal, but like, what kind of problems would you like?
And I wouldn't even frame it as mostly problems that are like detrimental. It's just like trying to be innovative about solutions as we look at working remotely and working in the society that we are in with the technology that's advancing so quickly, and like how people are adapting to that, how people are adapting to their personal situations. Diversity and equity is a really big issue in HR right now, where we're trying to figure out how to balance the people in the room that are making decisions. So it's not just looking like one demographic is controlling all of the decisions that are being made throughout the institution. And so lots of different types of creative solutions to organizational issues and then employee personnel issues.
Okay. And how long you been there?
So I've been in HR for 15 years.
Okay.
Yeah. So I started out as just doing information, benefits, learned from the ground up, and then just worked through the organization from an assistant up to a director.
Okay. Man, that's nice. 15 years. That's good, man. That's real good. All right. So now we about to just go ahead and get to the questions.
Okay, so as you may know, we are currently on a journey to build wealth, and wealth can mean different things to different people. What does it mean to you?
To me, wealth means freedom. Wealth means the ability to decide your own destiny, right? It means that you have enough to take care of your family, to live comfortably without depending on a paycheck or without, depending on something outside of yourself. I think wealth is, to a certain extent, I think is love. I think if you have enough love within your inner circle, your family, and, whoever you're doing business with, I think that's a form of wealth in itself too, or at least it adds an asset into your life. And so I like freedom, though. That's probably my number one answer. Just the freedom to travel, to move, to start new businesses, to just have a whole bunch of decisions and choices that you can make that you're not confined by because of finances.
Okay. I like that answer because a lot of people would say wealth is basically having a lot of money, which is not necessarily true, right? As long as you have the freedom, it no matter what kind of money you make, And I like what you said, wealth could be as love, right? And as long as you have a good family around you, we got people that support you in whatever you do, and you have that freedom to do whatever you want, then you're wealthy. And so that kind of ties in hand, I guess, with success, right? Because a lot of people see success as money, but in reality, it's not that. What you think success is? I want to hear your opinion first.
My definition of success is, one, execution. Like seeing a goal all the way through to fruition. So it could be something small or it could be something large, but something that you've intended to do, that you've seen all the way through, And whether it was, a pass or a fail, the fact that you executed to me is a success because you're going to learn something from the pass or the fail. And then like you have more experience and knowledge to go forth with in life. So I think success is one execution, but at the end of the day, it's happiness for me. It's like I'm successful if I'm happy with who I am, if I'm happy with the decisions that I'm making, and I'm happy with, the contribution that I'm having towards my family. To me, that's successful.
That's right, and that's right. Again, like I said earlier, a lot of people consider like success being a lot of money. But if you got a lot of money and you're not happy, then what's the point of having the money? So that's a good answer. I like that. I like the way you put that. And yeah, success is basically what you're saying. Like you said, execution, right? If somebody say, I'm going to college to become a doctor, and you do it, you are successful.
Winning.
You winning, right? But if you go to college, say, I'm going to college to be a doctor, but you go to college to just play around, and then you end up graduating with no doctor's degree, nothing, right? And you just came out of college with like $100,000 in debt. Are you a success? Maybe, maybe not. Because maybe your mind changed when you went to college. Who knows? You know what I'm saying? So you can't really say success is defined by money, because it's not. It's like you said, it's defined by your goals, and are you pursuing them? Did you execute your goals? So that's a good answer. I like that. So let me ask you this real quick. So as a child, right, you say you grew up in Northeast DC. How was it growing up in that area?
It was horrible. It's like, nah. I mean, it was challenging, because again, we had economical issues. I grew up at a time where there was a lot of drug activity and a lot of just like violence that was the offspring of that. Lots of crime, like in the mid 80s, when, certain substances were dumped into our neighborhoods and people started vying for what looked like a quick grab. So that was my first like real introduction to finances. But I also had some great like elementary school teachers who taught me different things about economy that I would have never thought about, like how to write and how to balance your checkbook, things that might be obsolete right now. But, back in the day, that was a big deal. If you were 13 and you had a checking account, you were kind of different. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You knew where every penny was, and it was like that was part of our lesson plan. And like we were learning about economy in those ways, banking and certain topics. So it was there, and I think it was introduced in a way that a lot of times after you learn how to count and do fractions and basic math, like there's a life skill component that I think Black communities don't necessarily get exposure to. And so I think that's what those expert educators were thinking about when they were trying to expose us to different parts of like real life, like money situations and what you need to think about as you sort of mature through life.
Okay. That's good, man. Shout out to your teacher, man, who's showing you that. But yeah, definitely balancing the checkbook is definitely not what we do now. It's like you can just log onto the app,
It's done now.
You're good.
You know what I'm saying?
It's already there for you.
We had pencil and pen. You hear me? Back in the day, like teacher of the year, Annie Miller, for sure.
That's funny because so I work at the bank now, right? And this older gentleman came in. I think he was born in like. I think his ID. I could have sworn his ID said like 1930 something.
Wow.
So I was like, dang. And he came in there. He brought some checks from us, right? And he came in. He was like, do y'all have I forgot the name of the sheet, but he showed me how some banks have on the back of the check.
Yep.
It shows you how like where your money's going.
Yep.
And I was like, honestly, man, I never seen this in my life before.
Wow.
So I don't even know what this is.
Wow.
Right? I said, look, let me go ask my manager. So I asked her, she's like, yeah, you never seen this before? I was like, I never seen this before. Like I know what a check looked like, but on that back of the check, underneath that paper, it breaks down like how much you have left. I never seen that part
ledger,
before.
yeah.
Yeah, the ledger, that's what it was called. I never seen that part before, so that's kind of funny. But so you broke down, how was it living in Northeast DC, and you said, your elementary school or your high school or elementary, dang.
Yeah.
So elementary school teacher taught you, how to balance a check. But was that like anything talked about building wealth in a household, or was that something you learned from your elementary school teacher?
Funny. I think it wasn't specifically framed that way, to say that we were talking about building wealth, but for me, I always wanted a source of income, if that makes sense. Like when I was younger, I would just like watch and see like what was going on, who was getting what, who was buying things, like just my friends, family, everybody. And I was like, well, it's some things I like, or sometimes I like to go to the movies, so I probably need some money, right? So I was like, all right, how can I get money? So I started like having sort of like an entrepreneurial spirit really, really young. I would rake leaves, I would shovel snow, I would go to the gas station, lift bags, do all that kind of stuff. And then I just started selling ices and newspaper routes. Like,
Okay.
yeah, I was on it probably like at the age of like 11. Because I was like, I just wanted the ability to do something if I wanted to, right? If I wanted to go to the store and get me a couple of days worth of snacks, then I wanted to be able to do that without, hearing somebody tell me no, or just watching everybody else doing what they were doing. But that was like my first introduction, just trying to satisfy my own personal needs, is when I started thinking about money, and then thinking about like, I think that just started the journey towards like how you would think about wealth in a way.
Okay, that's good that you said you was on your own like entrepreneurial journey. Like you was shoveling snow, raking leaves. I was kind of doing the same thing. Like I couldn't wait till it snow, because me and a group of brothers, we'd go everywhere, try to shovel some snow for like $20.
All
You know
day.
what I'm saying? And then for like just for you, like you want to be able to get what you wanted, right? And for some reason, like Call of Duty came out every November for like 5 years straight. So when it was snow, I would, back then, because it didn't snow till like December, January, whatever. So it'd snow for us, and actually I go get the game, because they have it on sale by then. Because it'd be like $60 in November, but then like January, after Christmas, it go on sale. So after, it snow, after Christmas, then I go buy it or whatever. But yeah, so, all right, so that's good. But now I wanna dig deep a little bit. I know this about building wealth, but I know you said you seen, in Northeast DC, you seen a lot of, I guess, drug activity and stuff like that. But what, I guess, from seeing that and growing up in that environment, what made you not, I guess, partake in that? Like, what made you stay away from that?
Well, I just saw, first of all, I saw too many people compromising themselves. Like, it's especially like when you see people that you look up to, like teachers, for example, that were just like out there doing crazy stuff for a substance. That was just like a wake up call to me to say, if something is that powerful that it could make you compromise sort of your integrity, then I don't want no parts of that, And I just saw like people who were friends becoming enemies, or it was just so much death, right? It was so much violence over, this little bit of scrap of land and this little bit of money, that I was just like, that ain't gonna do it for me. So I always would try to get away from the neighborhood, or to try to do something that was just like constructive. For example, I put myself in the Girl Scouts. Nobody would believe that now, but I was in the Girl Scouts for a long time. But I knew that, every Saturday I was going to be gone, or I was going to be going camping, or I was going to be getting exposed to different things. Then I started playing sports. I started playing basketball, and I was kind of like, okay. And so that just took me away from everything, because that became my life, 24/7, dark, light, rain, snow. I was playing ball, and so that sort of like, it honestly saved my life. If I hadn't probably played basketball and just like was on so many teams and just traveling different places, going to different neighborhoods, playing people, all of that, if I didn't have that constructive distraction, then I think my life would have been totally different.
Okay.
And so I think that feeds into the mindset of, it doesn't matter what you're doing, but as long as you're focused on something. For a lot of times, like growing up, like you don't necessarily get the attention that you need. Like, for example, got lots of colleagues send their children off to camp, send their children off to the grandparents' house, for the summer, whatever. Like, we weren't necessarily going to get that opportunity. If we did, it was probably Camp Brown for a week. You know what I'm saying? Then we was right back home, but it wasn't like something that was taking our attention away from that environment for enough time for you to really have thoughts of your own, have dreams of your own, or anything like that. It was like you were so submerged in something that if you didn't have the mindset to think outside of that box, then a lot of people just succumb to the circumstances. And so I think if you have something that will stimulate your mind in a way, or even if it's physical, it's enough to keep you constructive, then I think you're on the right track. It lends into discipline and all those kinds of things that sort of help you develop as an adult. And so it's very critical to just expose young people to things like you're exposing through the information that you're giving out. Some people are never going to hear that in their life, and that's important. You know, some people are never going to go to a live game or touch a basketball, you know, because they don't even who's going to teach them? Why would they ever try? You know, like, why would they ever have interest? And so exposure is everything. And I think those are the things that sort of help to build your character as you move along in life.
Okay, dang, that hit deep, and I feel like we could go deep into this. But I do wanna touch a little bit on it. So, you saying that what stirred you away was because you had something to do, right? You started playing basketball, and you fell in love with that, and that just became your life, right? Now, for certain people, who I guess who really, like you said, who really would never touch a basketball in their life. Dang, that's kind of deep. That hit deep. So, all right, let me bring it back, because I feel like that's gonna go into a whole different.
I see where you going.
You know, that's gonna go to a whole.
That's why I'm just like, hey, I don't know if this joint gonna air, but I give you all the wisdom I can.
Yeah, no, we definitely gonna put this up. Yeah, because that could get deep, man. That could get deep. All right, so let me ask you this question, right? So right now, in the city, I don't know if you watch the news, and I don't really watch the news too much, but I'm gonna end and do a quick search, right?
Yeah.
In the city right now, in DC, there's a lot of killing going on. A lot, right? What are your thoughts? How do you think that can be prevented, or if you can put something into place that could stop the killing, what would it be? I know we talking about building wealth, but you know, this kind of important topic too.
First of all, you have to have a platform and an organization that's going to serve the needs of the people. You know, and in order to do that and build that, you have to understand what the needs of the people are. For me, off the break, I'm like, you got to make it even. You got to give everybody access and equal opportunity to make it, right? Because in my opinion, crime exists because of inequality. Crime exists and flourishes because of racism and all of these things that make society uneven. Especially, this is the most powerful city in the world, right? We got real estate that's going for millions of dollars. And, you know, what are we investing into our school system? You know, how are we raising our children to be competitive in this society? We aren't. We're leaving them behind. What are we doing for their parents who don't have childcare, or who don't, you know, have enough sustenance to feed their family for a week or a month? Like, those basic things are just like common sense. And that's something that the city should be definitely focused on, because a lot of these people are going to commit crimes because they don't have money. They can't eat. And when you get that desperate, you know what I'm saying, you probably got a whole, man, every situation is different, and not to justify it, but I think that if you were meeting the basic needs of the people, then some of this stuff wouldn't be as drastic as it is. And then, like, we have a problematic relationship with the police, and that needs to be rectified. You know, we need to be thinking about real life strategies of how that interaction is going to partake with the community, because I mean, quite frankly, it's just like, I feel like that's part of violence in a way. It's not necessarily physical, but that type of oppression also just forces people to go to extremes, to me. And so I think we need to even this out. We need to equal this out and try to figure out how to meet people at their level. Like, what is it that, you know, if people are still struggling with food, clothes, and shelter, you know, that's embarrassing for the place where the president lives. You know, like, it's no way that you should be walking across, you know, east of the river after you cross a certain street or a certain bridge, that you have a whole different type of living going on over there. Whereas you got millionaires on Capitol Hill. You know, you got people who are just like paid to be in this position to take care of us, and we get ignored, I feel like. And so I don't feel like there's been a strong effort to really figure out what the needs of our community are and try to meet them. And a lot of that comes from listening to your community. Like, people have solutions, but they're all head-based to me, because you didn't talk to the people and you don't really actually know. You think you know, but you have to go get on the ground. You have to go out there in them streets and really figure out what's going on. Like, this is, to me, not something that is a coincidence. It's very systematic to me. It's very like imbalanced in the way that funds are allocated and what the priorities of the city are to me. And so I think that's where we begin. That's where we begin, and that's where we start to like draw out the plan of how we're going to address the issues. And I say the issues because what are the issues? Like people say issues and people say, there's things going on Ward 7, Ward 8, whatever. But what are those issues though? And how, like, don't just tell me the flip side. Don't just tell me what you see on the news. But what's happening in those communities every day, I think, is something that never has gotten this proper attention. Like, what about, employment? How are we employing people? How are we giving them advantages and putting them in a position to take care of their families? Where is that push? Where is that? If you're going to build in Southeast, then a certain amount of people have to be residents, or like you can build certain things into some of these breaks that these companies are getting for just like throwing up property everywhere, or just like benefiting from the community without giving any substance back. So I think there's a number of prongs and moving parts that just need to come together. And until we have someone who has enough, I think, mindset to be thoughtful and objective about all the citizens of this city, we're going to continue to see violence and we're going to continue to see crime.
Damn, that's a lot right there. That's definitely a lot. Because now, right, in like you said, in Southeast, right, when you go east of that river, it looks different. But now it's going through this whole gentrification phase where you kind of mixing this too. You know what I'm saying? Like these big companies, these big developers getting all this money from wherever they're getting it from. And they building up in the city. But it's like, okay, you got all this money, you putting all these condos in the city in Southeast. But like you said, why isn't that money going to the schools? You know what I'm saying? Why isn't this money building a better system to teach more people about, I guess, let's go to the top with building wealth, or teach more people about, you know what I'm saying, about anything, right? So, like you said, it's not all coincidence, it's more of a system, and I agree.
Who are they building the buildings for? You know what I'm saying? Like,
right.
If you follow that question, like, who are you building the buildings for? Who can afford to live there? The people who are there already, you're gonna move them out. You might have a little bit of section of the building that's for like low income, but eventually they're gonna be phased out too. Like, who are you building that building for is the question. And then when you realize that, it's like, okay, so you're gonna take a plot of my land, right, where I grew up at, where I lived at all my life. You're gonna bring some outsiders in here, right? And like, where are we going? We don't have a place to go, so we're probably, phasing ourselves out. But you have a whole new set of rules now. And it's amazing that you could come and build this, but you couldn't come and build nothing to help us. You know what I'm saying? Like, how that work? And I understand why. But that's the critical thinking, like, we have to start, like, really, really challenging on the surface level. Like, who are you building that for? If you were building it for us, then we will have some benefit in from the beginning of the project to the end, meaning from the building stage to who's finally moving in there. If 90% of the people who moving in that building don't look like me, don't act like me, don't have the same circumstances as me, then I feel like you just took something from me. You know what I'm saying? I feel like you just now invaded my space in a way. And that's not fair. And it's about fairness and equity, and that's the question of the day. Like, how do we make it fair? Like, it's okay because the city is attractive now, I get it. But don't act like nobody lives here already. You know what I'm saying? Like, don't act like people haven't lived here all or most of their lives. Like, somebody needs to put some respect on that, because if it was reversed and we were doing that, I think we'd see a totally different reaction. You know what I'm saying? If we were going in the other neighborhoods, even suburbs, buying up stuff, the first thing will happen if we go to, let's say we pick a suburb, right? Like, somewhere out here we want to go, this is the community that we want to start to like shift, and let's bring our people out here, right? The first thing that's going to happen, as soon as we buy the property value going to sink.
It's going to drop.
You know what I'm saying? And who does that? Who decides property values?
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like, those critical questions, that's game. Like, if you could influence a whole like neighborhood's value based on who lives there, how is that fair? Because I paid market for it, but as soon as we get there, it's going down. And if we went in any other place, in any other city in this country, and had that same mentality, oh, we're going to build a condo for us, it would be a problem. And I think you will see a really, really powerful reaction. We don't have no reaction because we feel powerless. But if we did that in some of these other neighborhoods, I think you will really, really see like Tulsa, Oklahoma, and you know what I'm saying, Philadelphia move type of responses to that.
Right.
And that's what I mean. Like, it's not fair and it's not equitable and it's not equal. And how do we get there if you got everything? You know what I'm saying? And you not let me have nothing, you know? Even a little bit that I got, you don't want me to have that. Like, how is that fair? It's like no middle ground. And I think that's what we need to do amongst each other. It's like we're gonna have to start having these conversations and like wake up and just like, you're gonna have to get involved. You're gonna have to step in, especially if you planning on having a family, you're gonna have to be like ready.
Mm-hmm.
You're gonna have to be ready. Like, you're gonna have to take care of your kids, and I mean not just every day, but just their future.
Mm-hmm.
Like, what are they gonna do after they graduate college or whatever? Like, you need to make sure they set up. Like,
Right.
coming into a business, coming into a property or something to play with, to build on, because
Right, because if you
ain't
bring
too
them,
much.
right, if you bring them in right now with nothing to really build on, it's gonna be tough, like tough. And I like what you just said, like, okay, now in Southeast, right, property wasn't as expensive as it is now. I would say 10 years ago, even 5 years ago, right?
Real quick.
But what, like you said, who determines the property value? Like, okay, we got some different people moving to Southeast area, and now some different people moving to Southeast area. Oh, my rent goes up. Well, how? Like, why? Okay, if my rent was, it's just throwing out numbers. If my rent was $1,000, right? Let's say 2 months ago, and then we got a few sprinkled people moving in that don't really look like us, and nothing really changed in the city except you built another condo down the street. Why did my rent go up $300?
Good question.
You know.
That's a good question.
So it's kind of frustrating. Mm-hmm. And like nobody really knows what to do, and that's why it's like I feel like that's why we really started this channel, is because, well, damn, like if you don't really know the importance of personal finances, you really can't get nowhere. You know what I'm saying? Because if you don't really know how to like budget or spend or even to invest, it's like, well, damn. You know what I'm saying? Because it's kind of going to society put us in the mindset a little bit to not like invest and save. They want us to spend.
Consumers.
Right. Keep us in that consumer mindset while the wealthy get wealthy and the poor get poor. You know what I'm saying? So that's why we created this, to spread, because it's something that we still learning, by the way, honestly, right? But it's just to spread the good vibes and the importance of financial literacy, man.
Information is power.
Right.
For sure.
For real. So, you got anything? I know you got a question you want to come over.
Yes. So, what do you think is the best way that young adults that's currently in the process of building wealth, how can we give back to the community or help resolve the issue in the community?
I think the first thing and the best thing that you could do is be an example. You know what I'm saying? Because if you look at what most of these young people are looking at and what images are being fed to them as far as media, music, all of that, they looking up to rappers. You know what I'm saying? They looking up to people that they can see, even if it's an illusion. They looking up to things that they can see, you know, tangibly. So I think first you have to be an example, and that means like making sure your family's straight, being a good community citizen, you know, respecting your neighbors, all of that. Just like sometimes it's going to work every day. You know, the little kid that's on the corner see you going to work every day, seeing that you ain't, you know, out here lollygagging, or you got a suit on, or, you know, you just look professional, or you just have some business. Like, I think that's the first thing. Like, that's the first thing you can do, is be the best example, just by making sure that your life is straight and that you're doing what you're supposed to do. But I think everybody has a passion. You know, like, it's such a broad topic when it comes to just like what all of our issues are as a nation. And I think if there's something that speaks to your heart and that's something that means something to you, for example, I know that you into fitness, you know, maybe it's a fitness class, and maybe that's the start, because now you have a relationship that you're building with a group of people that you just started working out with. Next, you know, that might evolve into something else, and then it might evolve into something else. So if there's anything that you're particularly passionate about, like we got cooks, we got people who just do different things, you know, we got coaches, we got people who are just like, man, it's so many groups out there, and I think that's the start. Like, we don't have to agree on everything, but let's find some mutual interest, right? And let's start there on a spiritual level. Like, just bonding with each other. Because a lot of times, we can't even get along. You know, like, we have so much conflict.
Right.
And we just, like, that quick to be like, look, I'm through, or I don't feel like it, or whatever. And I understand that, too, because it's a lot going on in society, and it's a lot going on a day-to-day. Everybody has their own life and issues that come up. But I think we just need to start to work together on simple things first, and I think that'll evolve. You know, that'll evolve into more conversations like this with other people. And then you'll finally have like that moment where, why don't we do this? You know what I'm saying? Or why don't we just take a trip here? Or why don't we invest in this? Or why don't we think about, you know, that house down the street for the sale? We could do something with it. We could, you know, go in 5 ways or whatever. But I think the initial conversations, and I think you'll see this in other cultures too, they usually evolve from a relationship. It's either we're family, or we go to church together, or, you know, that's how people start to just like bond and just have those conversations at first that evolve into something else. So I think, and I'm not great at that because, you know, I just like, at the end of the day, I'm like, I'm a loner, but I know I have to push myself to be more social, because that's the only way that anything that I have to contribute is going to be able to make it to another ear. It's going to be able to make it to another person. So I think that's being an example first yourself, and then building small relationships with people and groups until that keeps evolving is one way. Because if you come out with an idea, you know, you might have 10 naysayers, two people that's with it, and, you know, you don't want to go through all of that back and forth debate, or just like, you know, people trying to down your dreams and this and that. So I think if you build just on a human level first, then everything else will evolve from that.
Right, humble beginners, right? Right. Nah, that's good.
Because that's why, you know, all the civil rights movements, everything else, they usually started like church, or, you know, a group of people who just were like, all right, what we going to do? Because y'all see this? And then, you know, they just decided. And then, you know, as they got larger and started getting more organized, you know, they had more input from more experts and more people who were like really, really in tune to what needed to happen next. And so that's what I'm saying. Like, it might be simple, but I think that's the start. That's the start to most any types of change in a major way, is that you have to have those relationships, and you have to have those bonds with people who are, you know, of the mindset that they want change and growth too.
Okay. Yeah, that's definitely something we need to start working on too, is building more relationships with different people, because, you know, it's like we small right now, I ain't gonna lie. But we definitely trying to get our name out there and get the word out there. It's not really just a name, just like our message, man. Because I feel like we have something we want to say, and we need, like, you know, more people to hear it, right?
Definitely.
Because it's like, I feel like a lot of people need to really understand, like, how important really personal finance is. And we're gonna get there. But so earlier we talked about, you know, what wealth is to you, right? So now my next question is, taking your answer, what wealth is to you, what you think is the difference between being wealthy and being poor?
Assets, number one. What do you own? And again, I remember that I said what I said about wealth, you know, but if it comes down to the freedom to, let's say, fly out next week if you wanted to, or charter a plane, or just like take your whole family on vacation, you need assets to do that. So where are your assets located? And most people, they either have their money in investments and stocks, or they have their money diversified in real estate. And so wealth is a combination of assets to me on a paper level. So you need enough to take care of yourself indefinitely, and that's going to continue to grow. And so anything that's an asset is going to appreciate and not depreciate. And so that's usually land. That's usually, you know, stocks and ownership, and even your company is an asset in a way, if you have a business and it's profitable. So those are the immediate thoughts about what's wealth versus poor. Like, you don't have resources. You know, you can't make decisions for yourself. People make decisions for you. You can't up and decide if you want to go and do something. You have to wait until the other conditions are right in your life. And to me, that's just like it's such a crazy place to be, like to be an adult and not have that flexibility. And I just hope all young people get that that's the most treasured thing that you could ever have in life. That's your personal will and the ability to be free and do what you want. Liberty is everything. And so if you don't have liberty, to me, you're poor, you're a slave. And that's not it. That's not a good place, because it just lends itself to so many other issues that, we are trying to compound. Like I think if you look at other cultures, you'll see a certain amount of freedom, like even in little kids. They just have this spirit about them that they already know that the world is theirs in a way, or that anything's possible.
Right.
And they don't have these sort of restrictions on their mind or on their ability to move about. And that's the difference between being wealthy. I think your mindset too is just like, if you think that you are poor, then you're going to act poor.
Exactly.
And you're going to make poor decisions. And then, that's your whole life. And then if you have wealthy mindsets, then you're going to have an optimistic view. And you're going to see things like what's the positive and what's the potential instead of what's the setback in most situations. And so I definitely think the mental aspect of that is very underrated. Like, people don't understand like how powerful your mind is and how that's going to set the tone for everything.
Right.
Like if you thinking like wealthy, then you probably gonna see wealthy results. I ain't saying it's gonna happen tomorrow. But you know what I mean? You just, everything, your decision making, everything you expose yourself to is gonna be different. Like, you guys have a wealthy mindset, I can tell. Because y'all on it. You know what I mean? Y'all doing y'all thing, and then y'all putting things into action to support what your mindset is. It's gonna eventually flourish. It's gonna definitely develop into something great. But if you don't even have that, initial type of drive, then unless you like born with some money, you're probably going to see the result of just limitation around you a lot.
Okay. That's definitely good. That's definitely, first of all, appreciate that, man. Cause we wasn't born with money at all. So definitely not. Only thing we can do is just accept the mindset and just keep going with it, man. You got to go with it. But nah, that's good. That's good. Want to ask the next one?
I think we pretty much asked everything. But how early do you think is too early to start investing in stocks and stuff like that?
Let's go.
I think as soon as you get the opportunity, like if you're intellectually savvy enough to do it on your own, then I definitely recommend that. Like, I know 13, 15, 16-year-olds who go online, do their own research. They already trading, like if you have that gumption about yourself, by all means. But I think at the least, as soon as you enter the job market, like I remember when I was younger, and all the boys were going to get jobs at McDonald's, right? And McDonald's will let you buy stock. And, if you buy stock every paycheck, you'll eventually develop a little portfolio, and you'll have some, investment in McDonald's. And I know a friend of mine right now who was like, man, I wish I wouldn't have sold that. You know what I mean? And it was like 30 years ago. Yeah. But, just to think, like, if he had even just sat on it and not touched it, right? It probably would have built some value by now, especially like with all the campaigning McDonald's does. McDonald's is like $1 billion corporation. So 9 times out of 10, them stocks right now, I think if we probably figured out how much they was worth, he probably would crap. But if that's your first opportunity, an employer-sponsored program, like whether that's a 401k or a 403b, or if it's just owning stock in the company, by all means, like make sure. I think Walmart does it too, but make sure you allocating part of your paycheck to that, because again, it's you owning part of the company, but it's also you investing in yourself. And even if you don't stay with that company, you can move that around, take it somewhere else. But that's you putting sort of an investment back into yourself. And usually they match it. So, like if you do 3, they'll probably do 3, or they'll do up to 10%. I think that's what my company does. But I think that's the easiest way to get involved. And then, like, you got cryptocurrency now. You got so many, you got all types of different options for investments. So I think the sooner the better. Because the thing about the stock market is that unless you really, really investing heavily on the front end, you're going to have to hold it, or you're going to have a long-term strategy. Like, you're not probably going to get $1 million investment overnight. Like that's something that you probably gonna have to build up.
Build up.
Yeah, about 5 or even, but by today's standards though, like if you had Google, if you had Microsoft, or if you had any of those blue chip starts, man, what? That was 20 years ago, but if you held on to it, you probably filthy rich right now.
You'd have been in the money.
And that's what I'm saying. You have to have a long-term and a short-term strategy. So if you're going to, be in it, certain things you're going to hold on to, and certain things you probably just going to go through quick, like Bitcoin and all that. It's going to evolve a little bit quicker than I think most traditional stocks. But you always have something, and that's a safety net. People don't think of it like that, but if something happens and you don't have your rainy day fund together, sometimes you can tap into, not that that's what your ideal circumstance would be, but if if you need it, it's there.
It's there, you got it.
Or if you didn't work for a company 15 years like I have, and you done, saved up a significant amount of money, that could be your startup money for your new company, you know what I'm saying, or whatever you want to do. Or you can just retire with it, but you know what I mean? Like, we have to start thinking like out of the box and not just like one way. Like sometimes you're gonna have to fund yourself. Sometimes ain't gonna be nobody ain't no bank gonna give you no money. You know what I'm saying? You never know. I'm not saying that it's out of the question, but I'm just saying like the more that you can invest in yourself and fund your own dreams, I think the more powerful you are. Because you own it all. And that's the best freedom in life. Once you own it, you make the decisions. Ain't nobody in your pocket, ain't nobody telling you what to do. You don't have to be worried about this and that. You just have more power to do what you need to do and what you want to do. And so, I think the little kids need to jump in. We used to do savings bonds back in the day. Ask what a savings bond is now. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. But passbooks, like people used to give their children passbooks when they turned 18. And like, here's the money that you saved all your life. And you can write whatever you need to write out of this. You can pay for things, and none of that happens anymore. But I'm just saying that mindset, like, we got to be preparing like for the next leg to pass the baton on.
Right. Definitely generational, right?
For
Definitely
sure.
have to make sure you set, like we said, make sure you set them up, man. Actually, we just brought our first mutual fund a couple of weeks ago. So, we just started investing into that. So
definitely IRAs, all that. Right. Like, and look at those options. And have those conversations, around people, and just like, especially young people, because they'll eat it up. You never know. Like the person who heard you talk about a CD or IRA or a mutual fund today, 10 years from now, they probably going to be on point. But all of these things are just like gearing them towards like rewiring their brain, essentially, like literally rewiring their brain. Anytime you introduce a new concept, you build neurons, you know what I'm saying? Like your brain start firing, and you just like have different pathways to explore. So that's going to influence what happens next and what happens next and what happens next. So never underestimate those small little things either, because just a little bit of influence. Like I said, the young man that's seeing you every day that you might not even know watching you, you know what I'm saying? That means a lot to them. That means a lot to them because it's a difference from what they used to and what they see all the time. And that's why male teachers and black teachers are important. That's why black doctors are important. Black lawyers are important. That's why black therapists are important. Like who gonna understand your situation better than somebody who's already been through similar or just has some type of groundwork when it comes to what we experience in this life, in this country, in this world as black people. Like we have to understand that that's a valuable thing. And so the more that we can show people and just like be an example in the work that we do and being, good people, all of that's powerful. And so there's, like I said, there's so many prongs to this approach that might not seem like it's a lot, but as long as you are thoughtfully like trying to make sure that that's the image and that's the energy that you want to put out, I think it comes back. I think it comes back 100-fold. And it comes from every direction, Like people tell me all the time at work, I'm so glad you're here. I'm so glad you the perfect person. Like you understand everything and blah. And I know what that means. I know what they're saying because I can relate. And I know that there are a lot of voices for the powerless. Like you guys, even though you're trying to educate, you're also a voice for people who don't have the training opportunities and experiences to have a good shot at life. They listening to you. And so that means a lot, you know. Like this is you're a voice for a whole population of people that you might not even be thinking about, and that's powerful. Yeah, that's powerful. We have to preserve that, and we have to make sure we do the best with our voices when we can and use them. And so that's what it means when an employee says, "My gosh, I don't know what I would do," and I'm just like, I get it, because and sometimes people, even if they are like mentally aware, they just don't have the voice. You know, they just don't know what they need in some instances. It's just like, I'm just trying to get by, or I can't think outside of the box because. But the more you keep hearing more different types of perspectives and different people giving their experience, the more it's going to become normal, you know. And then that eases the fear a little bit. That makes you a little bit more confident. Like, maybe I can buy McDonald's stock if it's, you know what I mean? Like, just to try it and see what happens, you know? It's just exposure. The more you expose and the more you have experience to things, the more comfortable they become. And so y'all gonna do great things with this.
Appreciate you. And that's why, you know, networking is so important, because like you said, like, you never know a conversation you will have with somebody. And they just, like you said, they say something, they just make your brain start going, right? Like with the bank, man, I'm working in the bank, like I told you earlier, right? And I had some of the most intelligent conversations with somebody that I wouldn't even think I would have a good conversation with at work, right? Because they come in, they want to open up a credit card or whatever, or they got like some type of business going on, and I'm like, tell me about your business, you know? And we just start talking. I'm just like, you in the city? Like, you in here? I was like, yeah,
you never know.
And you would never know. I'm just like, man, like, it's like three people. I can't. Well, I gotta say it because hopefully nobody at work look at it. But you know, we can't exchange numbers with clients or whatever. But I exchanged numbers with three different people because they own three different businesses, and they want to like. I want to sit down and just like talk with them. You know what I'm saying? I'm like, yeah, but take my number down. You could do it. And you know, just I want to like. I feel like it's important to put yourself in a position in a situation that you don't necessarily have. Right? Do you see somebody that's doing something you want to do? Don't be afraid to go out and talk to that person. You know what I'm saying? If you see somebody, like I know right now, we trying to get our first rental property, right? And now it's like, all right, I'm putting myself in a position trying to get a rental property. So now we're going to talk to different people who already own real estate. I'm like, all right, how you do this? Like, teach us your ways. You know what I'm saying? What we got to do? You know what I'm saying? Or what was your mistakes? How can I learn from your mistakes? Stuff like that, man. So it's important, like you said, like you got to network, man. But yeah, this has been a very powerful interview. I really appreciate you.
Thank you guys for coming through and for considering me. I appreciate it, because you know most people don't want to hear what I got to say.
Nah, man, you got a lot to say. We got a lot to say, and we could definitely get deeper into this conversation,
for sure. And if there's anybody that crosses my path, you know, that I'll definitely send them over.
Appreciate
to have a conversation with you guys, because that's what's missing. You know, we also like from that, and I'll just wrap up with this, from the generation of, you know, 80s to now, that's always my point of view. It's like we missed a little bit in between, because there was a lot of people gone, you know, and a lot of people just weren't there. And so we didn't get that knowledge or that grandma experience or that, you know, that missing link from just like your uncles and your grandparents that would sort of get you through to a certain point, or just get you ready. And I think that's missing, and I think that's a huge opportunity right now, especially for those who are business owners in the city and just like who have the insight with real estate and anything else that could be a source of wealth, that we start relying on our ancestors and our elderly people and our OGs, so to speak. Like we need to start engaging them, because we left them alone for a minute. They left us alone too, because they was like, y'all tripping. You know what I'm saying? Y'all think y'all know everything. Y'all don't listen to nobody. Y'all fight too much. But I think there is a group of people out there who are looking for exactly the things that you're talking about and saying. And that's a huge gap that we can close for generation to generation, from, you know, the boomers to the Xers to the millennials now. Like, we have an opportunity there to regroup. Because those y'all probably might be considered millennials, but y'all generation got all the technology, all the information. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
If we can bring that and permeate that through and through, like back and forth through generations, we'll be amazing. So all those things count too. So let's think about that and just like really be forthright and intentional. You know, no matter what happens, just make sure you stay focused on your goal. And that's what I mean. That's what we're talking about, success again. Just be patient and see it all the way through. You know, and that's with everything. You know, try to keep your word on everything, and just like anything that you're going to invest in, whether it's your podcast or your rental property, just see it all the way through. And don't let anything deter you from that. Like, go to sleep, wake up, and do it again, you know, and just go harder.
Right.
And then always find somebody to reach out to, because that's the connection.
Right.
You know, we're literally changing minds, not only just like trying to change generational wealth paths, but you have to change a person's mind and mentality first. They have to believe it.
Right.
You know, they have to be invested in it themselves too. So that's a critical component. And, you know, we're the best examples of that. We're the best examples of that by living and walking in our truth every day.
I
So,
like that.
Yeah. Thank you guys for coming and having me.
Thank you for you know, accepting the offer. You know, thank you for that. Appreciate you. We definitely gotta have you on again. So I mean, if you want people to find you, if not, you don't have to say nothing. But if you want people to find you, where can they find you at?
I be home with my wife.
So that means no come find me. Cool.
Yeah, that's where I be at.
So that means don't come find me.
Don't look for me.
We got you.
Nah, it's all good.
But nah, again, man, thanks for showing up. I mean, thanks for you know, accepting the offer, man.
Sure.
We really appreciate you, and we definitely want to have you on again.
For sure.
You definitely broke down some wisdom, and I really hope that, you know, somebody out here listening, like, damn, like, you know, we spark an interest in their mind, you know, 'cause that's what we're really trying to do.
That's
you know?
what's up.
Just open up people's mindsets about something different.
Yeah,
you know?
that's
And
critical.
Not just stay in the same
Right.
spot.
Expose yourself to something
Right.
different. And if you ain't doing nothing that don't make you uncomfortable, then you probably need to get up today and do something make you uncomfortable.
Right.
Whether that's talking to somebody you don't know, or asking, you know, or just like something curious. Even if it's physical, like go outside your normal whatever you would do for a workout. Like you got to keep pushing yourself, because ain't nobody gonna motivate you. Can't nobody like give you that. It has to come from within. It's
Right.
good when you got partners to bounce it off, but it really has to come from you every single day. And so you got to try different things, and that again just rewires your brain. Use that offhand. Use that left hand. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Do different things to challenge yourself.
Right.
Take a quiz. You know, just like watch a show you wouldn't normally watch that has nothing to do with anything you like. You might learn something.
Right,
It might
for
put you
real.
on to something, especially with Netflix, man.
It got so many different
You would
shows.
never imagine. I've been watching I ain't gonna talk you to death, but I've been
you
watching a whole show that's just Croatian. You know what I mean? Like I think we watched The Quiet Place yesterday and it was no talking. So I was like, what? All right. Took an adjustment, but you know, it makes your mind focus on different elements and other things that you wouldn't normally see or pay attention to.
Right.
So yeah, just small things you can do every day to challenge yourself. And that's the same thing with wealth. Take one of them wealth terms and look it up, and then see where Google takes you. You know? Look at the YouTubes for that ROI or whatever interests you.
Yeah.
Just like do that, because the more you do that, the more you'll be accustomed to thinking wealthy.
Right.
And it'll start to show in your life.
No, that is facts. Actually, you talking about something about being comfortable. I think 50 Cent said this, but if he didn't say this, he probably got it from somebody. But he said you got to be comfortable with being uncomfortable. And when he said that, I was just like, damn, like that's true. Like you got to take yourself to the next level.
It's so strong.
In order to do that, you have to put yourself in an uncomfortable position, and that's how you grow. You know, so.
Or else you're going to get stagnant at a point.
You're going to stagnate, you're going to stuck. And
Yeah, like you got to challenge yourself, period. And it's okay. Like, we like to control things and we like to, know what's going to happen. But that's the whole point of life. Like, you have to let the world and, like, everything else that you experience teach you something. And if you always in the same mindset, always in the same lane, don't never go past 25. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
you just coasting through life, literally,
Coasting.
and you just gotta get uncomfortable. I agree with that.
Right.
Because every time I'm uncomfortable, something great happens, or something next in my life happens, or I'm going to a different stage, and I just now started to vocalize that. Like before, I wouldn't even say that. I wouldn't even say that I'm uncomfortable because I'm too strong. I wouldn't even admit that. But now that I'm admitted it, like I can go have a conversation with one of my mentors and be like, "Listen, I don't know if I'm ready for this." And this is, they'd be like, "Oh, that's perfect. I applaud you.
Yeah.
I applaud you for saying that, but you got this." And it's like your perspective and what you're thinking about it and how you're thinking about it. Probably never, like most of the shit we fear is never gonna happen. But that's how we've been trained to think, and that's what we see every day with all these media images, news, and everything we're bombarded with. But if you just take your time and just sit in the discomfort, like you'll know what to do. You know what I'm saying? And then you rely on the skills you already have. Like all of that's gonna come together, and then you're gonna be all right. And then you're gonna be blown because you ain't uncomfortable no more. You be like, "What's next?" You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Now you're gonna have to give me something else, cause yeah. But yeah, that uncomfortable thing is important because, especially as you age in life, things start to mellow out. You don't run as much as you used to. You don't get out as much as you used to, or we can have circumstances like a whole pandemic that will limit what you can do. Then you're gonna have to have some discipline. Right. You're gonna have to like step away. Go outside. Remember that you can go outside. Take a walk. Just little things like that, and just challenge yourself because life becomes it becomes contentment when you just driving to work every day. Go to work, eat lunch, talk, come back home. It becomes a routine, and you gotta break out of that, and you gotta give yourself something else that's going to challenge you.
Right.
Take a different route home. You know what I'm saying? Or go to a restaurant, try some different cuisine you never ate. I ain't telling you to eat no cicadas. But, you know what I'm saying? You want to try something different, But that's exactly what they're doing by making this a thing. Like they're trying to rewire your brain to think differently. Like, okay, you're going to get excited about that. You might not do it, or you might, but it's different. You know what I'm saying? It's just a change. And change is the only thing that's consistent in life. So you got to keep on moving.
Change is the only thing that's consistent in life. Dang. That's dope. I never heard that one before. That's dope.
Somebody smart said it, but it wasn't me.
All right, but yeah, thanks, man, for
sure.
accepting the offer.
Appreciate your
we definitely gonna do this again.
And all your questions, and thank you very much.
Definitely gonna do this again.
DMV Wealth Builders.